It's good day to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millsy. Back with Hometown Commander, back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I brew our version 1.0 deck to the commander in front of us in my quest to brew the magic world. You know the motto, baby. It's ABB, always be brewing it, and that's what we're back to do today. The deck list is going to be down in the description for you below, as well as I'd really appreciate if you could interact with the video, do all that YouTube stuff. I'd really appreciate it. But today, because we got some new warrior and warrior support in Tarkir, I wanted to talk about Najeela. I mean, I know Najeela gets a lot more love for other parts of its ability, but it does care about warriors, so I thought it'd be fun to do Najeela. I wanted to try to make it as much bracket 3 as we could, not getting into the CDH levels of fun, so we're not doing that. And then in the time it took me to get the deck list together and make the PowerPoint, Cloud Strife from the Through the Ages bonus sheet for Final Fantasy was announced. So we won't be doing, obviously, Najeela's Cloud Strife, but I wanted to at least show it off here that it is getting that cool new printing. Wizards seems to be really targeting, especially CDH commanders, with that list. But Najeela is a 3-mana 3/2 that says whenever a warrior attacks, we may have its controller create a 1/1 warrior token that's tapped and attacking. And for Wooburg, we can attack all of our attacking creatures, give them trample, lifelink, and haste till end of turn, and make an additional combat. This is a really important ability because it mainly gives them, I mean, trample and lifelink are great abilities, but it gives them haste. And this is huge because all the warriors that we just made off Najeela's first ability aren't going to have haste, which means they won't be able to attack in our second combat. And our second ability gives them that, meaning that they can get into attack. And that's where a lot of our game plan is going to revolve around. Get warriors in, create a system where they can get a little bit bigger when they come in, and then try to chain combats together to just really deal big damage. But I want to say a quick thank you to the channel members. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you're interested in seeing all of our videos just a little bit early for $1 a month, consider checking it out down below. Well, what warriors do we have? And the answer to that is a decent amount of them, right? We have something like Alesha who laughs at fate. That's going to get a counter every time it attacks. And beginning of our end step, we can return a creature with a mana value less than or equal to its power to the battlefield if we've, from our graveyard, if we've attacked this turn. Now note that the raid ability will go off whether or not Alesha is attacked. It's just that the trigger will be better, right, if Alesha attacks because it gets a counter. Even Wind Guide gives all of our tokens flying and vigilance. I really like this because then all of those warriors that are coming down with flying, and so they're going to be able to hit in a little bit harder. Balin, I 100% forgot was a warrior, and I think it works out pretty here. It can tap tokens for mana, can tap tokens to draw cards, or tap tokens to make itself a little bit bigger. Again, just not a bad body, especially since we can tap those tokens for mana. Brutal Horde Chief says whenever a creature we control attacks, that defending player loses a life when we gain a life. This is important as we go through our combats, as we can just get that chip damage in as we're attacking, and if we do find the line to take as many combats as we need, this will help end the game a little bit quicker. Champion Landhole says that creatures with power less than its power can't block creatures we control, and it gets a counter every time a creature comes into our control. Again, a nice way to just basically make our creatures unblockable, hopefully, so we can get in for big damage. Chatterfang is going to make a number of squirrels equal to the number of other tokens we'd make. In addition, anytime we make a token, which is really nice, meaning we're just going to net a bunch of squirrels, and then it can sacrifice the squirrels for some removal. Devilish Valley's power is going to double every time a creature enters. Devilish Valley, I think, is one of those cards that's going to end up being a real threat in our deck. Basically because, let's say I attack with 3 warriors, right? Devilish Valley, Najeela, and somebody else. I make 3 1/1s. Devilish Valleys go from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8. Now it's an 8/3 with trample. Well, all we need is 1 or 2 more warriors to come in. Now we're up to 16, now we're up to 32. And you can start to see where Devilish Valley might become a real threat for our opponents on a big turn where we're attacking with a bunch of warriors. And even if Devilish Valley dies, we might be able to just knock somebody out of a game if we can put enough creatures in right during that turn. This also cares about during our main, right? If our main phase we play creatures, well, then it's doubling too. Valley should be a nice threat, for our opponents. Gornog, the Red Reaper, says whenever one or more of our warriors attack a player, we get to make a creature that player controls a coward, and cowards can't block our warriors. and all of our warriors get a buff for each coward our opponents control. This is a really nice ability. It's going to help our warriors get to hit even harder. And, well, with enough combats, it might make all of our creatures unblockable, right? If we can make all of our opponent's creatures a coward. Since you get to make one for each opponent per combat, hopefully you're starting at +3/+0. And it's just going to get even better from there. Kutzel's going to stop our opponents from casting spells during our turn, and we draw a card if a creature we control hits a player and they have more power than their base power. Mardu's Siegebreaker is a warrior and has the ability to exile another creature and kind of make copies of it, kind of like you would with Myriad every turn. I'm not sure we have a ton of great Siegebreaker triggers, but it is a 4/4 Death Toucher, which is at least a thing that our opponents have to deal with. Marnie's Calgar can draw some cards anytime one of our tokens we may draw a card. Note that Najeela making you warrior tokens whenever you attack with a warrior is separate triggers, meaning that Calgar should hopefully draw us a ton of cards. Mirror Weatherlight Duelist, whenever it attacks, each opponent can't block with more than one creature, which is a really nice thing because then we have a chance of our warriors getting through for more damage. And then as long as it's tapped, no more than one creature can attack us each combat, which is a really nice ability. Ogre Battle Driver says whenever a creature we control enters, he gets +2/+0 and haste until end of turn. This will help what would have been the issue with Najeela's second ability if it didn't give out haste, but it does. Battle Driver can also help us if we don't have the mana for Najeela's second ability, but we do have something like Aggravated Assault out, which we'll talk about in a little bit. That does kind of help with that as well. Roaming Throne's going to double up Najeela's ability, just allowing us to get more warriors per combat. Smoot says whenever a creature we control deals damage to a player, if it came in this turn, we draw a card. Again, another way to draw off these, hopefully, these warrior tokens, right, hitting our opponents. Smoot gives all our other creatures haste and packs double strike and vigilance. Smoot, I just think, is a really nice way to give all of our other creatures haste, making sure they can get in the turn they come down. We're paying both the new Zergos. Both of them make those warrior tokens on the Mobilize. Remember, the Mobilize won't trigger... the tokens that come in off Mobilize will not trigger Najeela's first ability because those warriors don't declare attacks. Both of these Zergos, though, are great. The main set Zergo there, Thunder's Decree, is going to make sure we don't have to sacrifice those Mobilized warriors. And then Zergo could potentially draw some cards or have each opponent lose life whenever our tokens attack, which is really nice. But I think where the deck kind of goes from a good warrior tech to great is just hitting harder. We want to make sure we're hitting harder every combat we're in. And there's so many different ways to do this. We can use something like Eldrazi Monument, give them all flying and indestructible, making sure they can't just die to removal, although we have to sack one at the start of every upkeep. Rosette makes a warrior token, gives all of our creatures menace. The fun thing about this ability, remember, is you could put it last on the stack underneath all of the warriors we make off in Najeela, so that way they all get menace. Beastmaster Ascension shouldn't take long for us to turn online. Whatever creature we control attacks, you put a quest counter on it, and once it hits 7 quest counters, all your creatures get +5/+5. Remember, right, your tokens that come in tapped and attacking are not going to count for these quest counters, right? They're not going to get quest counters, although they can still benefit from the +5/+5. But it shouldn't take very long for us to get the Ascension online if we can play one. Flying on the White Tree, giving a base buff. Shared Animosity says whenever a creature attacks, it gets +1/+0 for each attacking creature that shares a type with it. The way this is going to work is any of our warriors that declare an attack are going to count all the warriors we make off Najeela's ability as long as we stack the triggers right, but still going to be very beneficial to hit hard. And then War Leader's Call, giving that flat buff, but also dealing a damage to each opponent whenever another creature enters. We can go even harder into this with things like Impact Tremors and all those, but I like War Leader's Call because it kind of meshes both worlds. Make those warriors a base 2/2 and deal a damage when they come in. Of course, we have ways to double up Najeela's trigger, the first one. Things like Ishin and Windcrag Siege both say if a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent we control to triggers an additional time. So it just means double the warriors for each warrior that attacks. Again, going to really be helpful. And Ishin is one of the only non-warrior creatures in our deck because that ability is just way too good. But all right, well, I think you're going to expect the same win con you're going to see here from most of the Najeela decks you're going to see in CDH, which is just chaining combats. And the thing with chaining combats is we basically need to just make enough mana to have access to another combat with either Najeela's second ability or Aggravated Assault. The reason I think Aggravated Assault is important in this deck is that there are only certain cards that are going to pair really well with Najeela, mainly things like Bear Umbra that just untaps all your lands. then you're guaranteed to probably produce Wooburg. But truthfully, you may not be able to always produce Wooburg, but you may be able to produce 3 and 2 red for aggravated assault. Remember, the only difference is Ag Assault doesn't give all those warrior tokens haste. So there are downsides, but I think Ag Assault is really useful still as another option in redundancy. But we want to pair this and Najeela with cards that can give us that mana every time. Like I said, Bear Umber, whenever this creature attacks, untap all lands you control, actually means that we're going to untap all lands we control every time. Hopefully we're going to put this on Najeela every time it attacks, hopefully paying for its second ability. Grand Warlord Rada says whenever one or more creatures you control attack, you add that much mana in a combination of green and red, and then you don't lose mana as faces end. This is going to mainly help pay for aggravated assault, but it's another option to get you mana, even to play other things. Nature's Well is very similar to Bear Umbra. The only difference is that we just need a creature to hit an opponent to tap all that lands and untap all lands we control. This is very important with Nature's Will to remember, is that it's on a per player basis, meaning that if we actually hit multiple players, we can untap our lands multiple times, leading to, I guess, technically using Najeela's ability more than once. But since it only untaps them once, I don't know how much it's going to be that beneficial. But it just goes to show you that you can actually take advantage of Nature's Will if you can have, people hit. You can hit multiple people. Then Druid's Repository, just whenever a creature we control attacks, you put a counter on it, and you can remove a counter of it for a mana of any color. So if we have 5 creatures attack, boom, 5 counters on Repository, take them off Najeela's ability. So it just goes to show you that you have ways to kind of fund Najeela's ability every combat. But I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again, no deck's ever complete. This is my version 1.0 shot at Najeela. And going into testing, I think there's some pieces we can add just to get more consistent. Sword and Feast and Famine is another option to kind of give you a second copy of that Bear Umbra ability to make sure we can trigger Najeela's ability a second time. I think this deck is pretty much at the top end of 3. I don't think it's a bracket 4 deck, at least by the way it's defined. Yes, a card like Bear Umbra and all colors in your mana base could be considered a 2-card combo with Najeela, but you have to have creatures to attack with. Najeela won't do it on her own. So you do need other things to do, which is why I don't consider it to be technically a 2-card combo, but it effectively is, and I think this deck will still play at the top of bracket 3. And we have things like Coat of Arms that could really help our warriors get out of hand, end the game sooner. We could look at something like Patchwork Banner. It would help us fix our mana and give all our warriors a buff. I was just trying to think of other things we could add to the deck to get more value. I think Feast and Famine makes the most sense. Like Bear Umbra, allowing us to get that combo going with Najeela. But I think there's a lot of ways to look at it, just making sure. We want to make sure we have that consistency going into testing. But let's get into our playtest. Remember, the goal of playtest on our channel is not to find Magical Christmas Land. It's not to show off all our best plays, but it's to get in some game scenarios and kind of see what hands we're looking for and how they work out. Here we're keeping a 4-lander with an offer you can't refuse for some counterplay. The Reaver Cleaver, another way with Najeela to potentially produce enough mana. It gives the creature trample, +1/+1, and whenever it hits a player, make that many treasure tokens. That would only make Najeela a 4/3, so it's not as guaranteed, but could go a long way. And then Voice of Victory, one of the other non-warriors in the deck, but it makes warriors on the Mobilize, so it's still very useful. The good thing about Mobilize is they sacrifice the beginning of the next end step, and Najeela untaps them and gives them haste. So even the mobilized tokens on our on this plan to take these combats would actually still work beneficially. Here, I think we'll go ahead and get that Voice of Victory down. It stops people from playing things on our turn. And I think we just get Najeela in here. Again, Najeela won't trigger off the Voice of Victory, which is A-okay. So this Canopy Vista can come and tap. That does give me enough for any joins up. This is if a triggered ability of a legendary creature we control triggers, it triggers additional times. So here's another way to have Najeela's first ability double up. This could be a fun play this turn. Have Najeela attack, make 2 warriors, and this makes 2 warriors. Or we could do like the Aven Wind Guide. Give these warriors that are coming in flying in vigilance, right? Just making sure that they're getting hit in. I don't have a blue source, so I can't do that. So I guess it'll have to be any joins up this turn. To get that, have it come in, deal 5 damage to something. And then now Najeela could make 2 warriors, right? It'll just depend on who we can get them in tapped and attacking. Now this turn, now we get the Wind Guide in. And now we attack again, right? Again, these warriors are going to go away, but that's okay. Now we're getting more warriors again flying in vigilance, so they're going to hopefully get in for better damage. I've got Wooburg here, so I have at least one more combat. This is where it starts to pay off to remember, right, what do I have access to? What can I use? Because now, right, I can attack with all three of these. I'm making 4 warriors because these 2 are each making 2. This is making the 2 1/1 warriors, right? Activate Najeela. All of these now have trample, lifelink, and haste. So they're dealing their damage this turn, and I'm gaining life. And then I'm going into the second combat, 4 more, 2 more, right? And then, now we're getting more damage in with trample and lifelink. Because Najeela gives them before that combat. That's the important thing, is she gives it to them on the current combat. So, I mean, you looked at gaining what? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 life there, and then 16 life on the next combat. So we just generated a ton. These warriors all go away. But again, I don't think we really care because we just netted a ton of value, and they were in the air, making them a little bit less blockable. I mean, and if somebody doesn't wipe the board here, which is probably more than possible, you just get down something like the Rushblade command, or I thought that was the +1/+1. Sorry. Does it make sense to throw the Reaver Cleaver on Najeela here, or does it make sense to just do another combat since we're starting with more warriors, right? Starting with 12 warriors, it'd be 16 on the first combat with 2 warriors, so 18, and then 22 and 24. So, I mean, I think we're just in good shape here in this playtest, kind of seeing how that line can work out for us. Here in playtest number 2, keeping a 3-lander with Voice of Victory, there's Chatterfang, Samut, and Alesha. Again, we see the Voice of Victory again, which, again, very useful for us. The question is, do we need to take a turn off? I like the Voice a ton, right, for its ability to shut down our opponents during our turn. Yeah, there's the Nature's Will. It's looking like we're going to have to take a turn off here to try to scoop some of our mana back together, because all 3 of these lands are coming in tapped. Got to do it this turn too, but I think that the Fabro Elder definitely helps, right? Getting us some access to some more mana. Then here, same thing, the Rootbound Crag comes in tap, but now we've got 6 total, 2 off the Fabro Elder. So I think we go free for Najeela. I'm thinking 3 for Samut. Red, green. Yeah, and then Samut can attack if we want to. If it hits, we draw a card, great. And then it would make a 1/1, and maybe the 1/1 hits and draws us a card, right? You never know. But now you're creating yourself a good situation. Same thing with the Voice Victory, could attack, and maybe we draw a couple cards off of Samut for it. Hall is going to come and tap. So I have Wooburg, and I have 3 colors for Fabro Elder. So I could spend 3 mana on the Fabro Elder. But I think, right, Nature's Will just makes more sense. Here we go. We have the combats. Right, we now have it. The only downside is we don't have the Fabro Elder, right, because we can do this after combat, right? Because they're still attacking. The reason I don't want to do the Fabro Elder is I'm kind of liking the idea of trying to keep the Unbreakable formation up to protect our board. Because my thought here is attack with Najeela, Samut, whatever, make all the 1/1s. We probably end up drawing a couple cards. They hit, causing the Nature's Will to go off. That's when we tap all of our lands to take the extra combat. Now we're fine on the mana. We've got everything untapping and going. We have the Mobilize that's making more Mobilized tokens. Unfortunately, Approach is going to end up drawing a ton of cards, but my thought is you can hit something like a Breakable formation just to give them all indestructible if somebody takes a really bad block for us, right? Since this will be able to tap for 3. And if we had hit any other relevant instance, like I said, multiple triggers of Nature's Will are going to go off. Again, it doesn't make any sense to pay for Najeela multiple times, but you could start throwing out things like Anguished Unmaking if you needed to at instant speed. We're probably going to be drawing a ton. And if we find these instants, we can play them on our way towards that, bigger damage. But I think we're we're pretty good on that one. Let's go into playtest number 3. Keeping a 5-lander here with the Rush Blade, giving all of our warriors haste, and there's the Bear Umbra. So we're looking pretty good already on Najeela. We just need to find, again, just some way to keep punching through a little bit harder. Painful Truth presents an interesting option and can draw us a couple cards here. I think we continue to want to keep getting... This is going to allow this and this to come in to untap now. So that was important to get the Catch Your Triumph in there. So Painful Truth says you draw X cards and you lose X life, where X is the number of colors spent to cast it. So, I mean, we would have enough to go 3 into it, but I think Najeela probably looks good here. I'm kind of thinking this now to draw 3. Just to get us access to some more, right? Some more stuff. Attack and get a couple warriors if we want them. We would have had to have pitched, wouldn't we have pitched this morning, Marsh? Now here with 6 mana, the Bear Umbra would be enough now that we have Wooburg. So you got 2 mana left. What do we want to do with it? Really wish we had 1 more for Kutzel, right? Kutzel could have been really nice. I guess we can just play something like Birds of Paradise and then get attacking. Again, if we have it here, we have it, because we can make enough warriors and give them the trample, the haste, and the lifelink, whatever, but we would have to have Najeela survive as a 5/4, right? And I just don't know that we have it. But we could at minimum untap all our lands and just get something like Kutzel down, right? And just set up for next turn. And the reason I like Kutzel here is because Kutzel will now let us start drawing cards, especially if Najeela can hit. It can have us start drawing cards to try to dig in for something more, right? First combat, we untap, draw. I was hoping to hit something like a buff, but again, we may have it here. Otherwise, just get some resources down and, save up for the next turn. This kind of stops, right? The only downside, right, of the warriors not, again, they get haste with the bottom ability, but just trying to think, what would you dump the mana into? Because we have it. We have the combat. So either we have it on board or we don't, right? That's kind of where we need to stop. Is either we have it or we don't. And if not, you just try to divert a turn or 2 until you have it right on the board. You can get in with enough of the warriors to make a difference. By that, I mean, is there one of our 3 opponents that we can attack these warriors into to amass enough warriors to then attack the other 2? That's what I mean by that. Is, do you have somebody you can beat up on to get enough of the warriors that you can then get into somebody else for enough to make it a real big deal, and go from there. But let's do one more playtest, keeping a 3-lander here with the Reaver Cleaver. There's Ishin, there's the Eldrazi Monument, there's Alesha. So we've got some nice pieces here to start. We've got a Nature's Lore, which is kind of nice, because then we can go digging for another Triome. The question is, which one do we need? Savage Lands is Jund, and Dartha Triome is Abzan. So we're missing there's blue. This doesn't feel like a bad time for like Ketria Triome. Keeps us in our core colors a little bit, but still gives us the blue. And the Savage Land comes in tapped there. Can't get Ishin out yet. Get Najeela out. Combat Celebrant, another option that's there to get a couple extra combats. Isolated Chapel could mean Ishin. We can't attach the Reaver Cleaver just yet. I don't mind the Monument. It would mean we have to attack with Najeela here to get the 1/1, but I think it's fine because we just then sack the 1/1 to the Monument right on our next turn to make sure it sticks around. Now we just have to commit to attacking more, but we're really not worried about it. Now we just need a way to untap, right, all of our lands, right? Valet feels a lot better here as a big attacker, right? And again, we'll always be able to get at least the 1 warrior, so we're not as worried about that. I think we'll just go ahead and attack, right? Get the warrior. Devilish Valet becomes a 4 because of the Monument, right? And again, we sack the warrior to the Monument to keep it alive. Well, there's Nature's Will, so that's going to be it for sure, because right, we make the warrior. I guess if we have somebody we can, well, they have flying. I just forgot they have flying off the monument. So yeah, we're probably going to be able to hit somebody for sure to start the train. Valet is going to start becoming massive in this combat. Every time a warrior's coming in on each combat, and it has lifelink. So this is one of those scenarios where, you go attack the first person, right? I'll just show it just so we're on the same page about what I mean here. So you make the warrior, right? We all three are in flying. This goes up to 4 now. Something's going to hit because they all have flying. Whether you attack the one person or you attack everybody, they also have indestructible, right? So you're not worried about that. It's the Nature's Lore triggers and tapping all your lands. We pay in to untap them, right? Trample, lifelink, haste. Go to the next combat. These 3 attack. That wasn't even showing that we would have got 2 warriors instead of 1. But again, 2 warriors, 3 warriors now because this warrior attacks. Now Devilish Valley is getting even bigger. Now, right, flying. These guys just have flying and indestructible. These 3 still have that trample and lifelink. Again, they're guaranteed to hit at this point, especially even if they do have flyers with this having trample. Attack again, untap them again. Now all of these have trample, lifelink. Now we attack with these. Now we're getting 6 warriors, and now you really start to see how this builds up. It's going to create a nice loop for us. But let me know, what do you think of Najeela? Like I said, I think this is probably at the top end bracket 3. I don't think it's like as fine-tuned to be a bracket, like a for sure solid bracket 4, but I think it's one of those bracket 3 decks that could very easily play at an average bracket 4 table and probably do okay. I have a tough time calling which side of the line it is just because of what do you expect an average bracket 4 deck to do. But let me know what you think of Najeela down in the comment section below, and I will catch you on the next one.